Hello, bonjour, spoil agents. This is Kyle with you from the Antiguan and Barbuda Tourism Authority. I'll be your host today for the webinar on the spirit of Antigua and Barbuda. As you know, in Antigua, we say the beach is just the beginning. Well, we wanted to give you the rest of the story, give you a peek behind the curtain, as it were. So today we're going to be looking at the history, the heritage, the culture, which has really shaped the Antiguan and Barbudan people. So please join me as we begin. All right, so our journey starts with a quick plane ride from Pearson International in Toronto to VC Bird International in Antigua. And actually, Toronto is closer to Antigua than some places in Canada. So that's just a fun fact for you. And in no time, your guest will be able to arrive in Antigua. They'll be warmly welcomed and they will be able to visit the twin island gems. So we always say that Antigua and Barbuda are two separate islands, as you can see, but one nation in the Caribbean. And we really wanted to begin with a brief overview and history of Antigua and Barbuda. We thought it was important to give you a grounding in where we're coming from so that you can better appreciate the spirit and the history of the people. So we begin in 1493, a long time ago, and at this time Christopher Columbus was on his second voyage to the New World, as he called it, and he passed by the island of Walladley. That's what the local indigenous peoples at the time called the island. Now today, the locals, we call it Wadadli, and that is incidentally the name of our beer, Wadadli beer. So again, just some trivia for you there. So Christopher Columbus, he saw the island and he named it after a church in Spain, in Seville, Santa Maria de la Antigua. And the name Antigua continues to be the name of the island today. In 1632, the British, they colonized the island, and the island was raided by the French in 1666 but remained within English control. In 1678, our sister island of Barbuda was then colonized. So in this time, the 1600s to the 1800s, sugarcane was king. As we say, that just means that sugarcane was the most profitable business in town. That is how the British and other European countries really made fortunes in the Caribbean. And that continued until the 1800s, when in 1834, August 1st, slavery was abolished. Slaves were emancipated. And to celebrate that freedom, to commemorate that, we celebrate Carnival today, and it's all about liberty and freedom and the right to self-determine. And we'll talk a bit more about Carnival later in the webinar. And then a few years later, in 1981, on November 1st, Antigua achieved independence from Great Britain. That was led by VC Bird, who is the person that the airport is named after. And he was our first premier and our first prime minister. And we'll talk a little bit more about his contribution to Antigua and Barbuda later in the webinar. So we begin our tour of Antigua in the southern part of the island in an area we call English Harbor. Specifically, we're looking at the Nelson's Dockyard, and this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site built in the 18th century. And it was positioned on the southern side of the island strategically because the French island of Guadeloupe is located to the south of Antigua. And of course, for many years, for decades, perhaps centuries, the English and the French were rivals in the Caribbean. So the British wanted to have a good location to keep an eye on the French. And if you look at the image to the bottom left, you'll see just how much of a protective cove Nelson's Dockyard was, and that would provide really great protection from high winds in hurricane season, but also just to keep the French out. So the English would have continued to build forts all around the island as part of their naval protection, and Antigua actually rose to become a very important naval base in the Leeward Islands in the Caribbean. But the dockyard is a preserved location, so if you have any clients who are history buffs and they'd like to see what life in the 18th century was, they can go down to the dockyard. It is open for tours, and they're able to go and visit some of the preserved buildings that remain, such as hotels and restaurants. There's a dockyard museum, etc. What's important to know is that the same trade winds that were bringing the Europeans to the Caribbean, so the French, the Dutch, the English, 500 years ago, they still play an important role in the economy today because sailing continues to be done for sport and for leisure, and Antigua and Barbuda has a very strong nautical heritage. We have many sailing regattas, races that happen throughout the year. One of the oldest and most prestigious regattas in the region is Antigua Sailing Week. That happens at the end of April into early May every year. And we get ships and boats from as far as Norway, New Zealand, even the Atlantics in Canada. They make their way down for the race, but also for the fun landside activities as well. And just beyond regattas, if there are clients that you have that do enjoy racing or sailing, that have their yachts, they're able to berth them at many places in Antigua. There are several marinas, including the Falmouth Harbour, English Harbour, Jolly Harbour, and of course we have all of the support businesses that are needed to service the yachts. So feel free to invite your clients to come down if that is something that they're interested in. Okay, so we continue our journey in Antigua. We move to the northwestern, just to the capital city of St. John's. And St. John's really is the banking and commercial hub of the island, and it is a quintessential Caribbean city. It's built around the port, so Heritage Key and Redcliffe Key, which is close by, today, they welcome many cruise ships, and the cruise ships come right up to the dock. The guests can get off and they're in a duty-free shopping area. It has all of the latest trendy international brands, and there are many taxis available that can take guests further afield to explore the rest of the island. So whether people be coming by cruise ship or if they're coming by airplane and they're staying on island, Heritage Key is a great place to go and check out just some of the shopping and some of the restaurants that are down there. I also would definitely encourage you and your guests to see the St. John's Market. This is a place where you can get fresh tropical fruits, vegetables, they're all grown locally, and it's a great place to meet some locals. We as Antiguans are known to be very friendly, very engaging, and authentic people, so don't be afraid to say hello and to make a new friend while you're on the island. If you look at that image to the bottom left, that is the St. John's Cathedral. That is a 19th century building. It's done in the Baroque architectural style with some really beautiful white stone. And St. John's Cathedral it's perched on the hill in St. John, so it really overlooks the city, and just a really beautiful sight for anyone to go and to check that out if they're into architecture or they like to see old buildings and churches. You won't be disappointed. It's really impressive when you see it in person. To the top there to the left, that is our old High Court building. It's since been converted to a museum, and I started off by speaking about the history in this podcast. So if your clients, again, are history buffs and they really enjoy that sort of thing, they'll love to check out the museum, which really gives an excellent accounting of Antigua's history from the past right up to the present, and it's something that they won't want to miss while they're here. And now, Antigua Recreation Grounds. This is a special place. You see that image of the men in all white? Those are cricketers, and I'm not sure how familiar many of you are with cricket, but of course that's something that we have inherited from the British and our days as a colony of England. So cricket remains a favorite pastime in Antigua and many other Caribbean islands. And Antigua Recreation Grounds is sort of hallowed ground in cricketing history, because you see that gentleman in the red cap leading the way. That is Brian Lara, and he is a Trinidadian cricketer. but in Antigua, he made the score for the most amount of runs an individual has made in Test cricket. He did that in 1994. And then someone else came along and broke his record. But 10 years later, in 2004, right back in Antigua Recreation Grounds again, he reclaimed his record. So twice the record was made in Antigua. So that is a really special place. If you have clients that come from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they also love their cricket as much, perhaps even more than people from the Caribbean. So trust me, they will know Antigua, they will know Antigua Recreation Grounds, and I think they would really appreciate if they would be able to have the opportunity to come and see that. And other than cricket, Antigua Recreation Grounds is also transformed into Carnival City, as we call it, during the Carnival celebrations. And it's just a place that has a lot of fond memories because that's where a lot of local competitions take place. So our King of Calypso competition, the Carnival Queen competition, the Steel Band competition. So it's really a place of culture, it's a place of excitement, and definitely top places to visit in Antigua, specifically in St. Now, we can't talk about Antigua and Barbuda and the people and the spirit without talking about our national heroes because their life stories really embody what it means to be Antiguan and Barbudan. Now, Antiguans and Barbudans are proud people. Our spirit is built from a history of struggle for human rights and really a triumph over adversity. And we want to start off with that person to the top left. You see a painting of him there. He is Prince Class or King Court, another name that he was called by. And this was an enslaved person who was brought to the island from Africa, but he would not accept the role and the position that was forced upon him. So he came up with a plot to attack the English planters at the time. His plan was to blow up the government house during a celebration that would be happening, and he had a few other people that he was planning this plot with, as local legend has it. Unfortunately, he was betrayed, and the information got back to the planters. The plan was foiled, and he was captured and executed. Incidentally, it was a public execution at the very same Antigua Recreation Grounds that I just spoke about. But for his role in defying, in not accepting enslavement as something that was acceptable for him and his people, he has been elevated to the status of national hero. To his right, we see Dame Nellie Robinson. She's our sole female national hero, and she is a former educator in Antigua and Barbuda. She built schools, and at a time when most of the education was done by church schools, and there was a lot of discrimination against illegitimate children and even children, black children. Nellie Robinson built schools where she educated all of the so-called undesirables, and she really would have changed the face of education in Antigua and Barbuda at the time. To her right is a picture of VC Bird, or Papa Bird as we lovingly call him in Antigua and Barbuda. And I spoke about him a bit earlier when I said he was the founding father of Antigua and Barbuda. Through the labor and trade union movement, what he did was to transition Antigua from colonial rule into local black majority in our government. And he was the person that led our independence. He was our first premier, then he became the first prime minister, and really is regarded with a lot of respect in Antigua and Barbuda as our founding father. Below him is Sir George Walter, and George Walter was the second premier, and his contribution really has been to build a lot of schools. In the 1970s, he introduced social programs and welfare programs for the people, such as Social Security, and for that he joins the ranks of our national heroes. To his left, perhaps he looks familiar, that is the son of VC Bird, Sir Lester Bird, and he followed in his father's footsteps and became the second prime minister in Antigua, and he was prime minister in the 90s and really would have pushed tourism. So he, under his leadership, Many more hotels were added to Antigua's hotel stock, and he would have really modernized Antigua in the 90s. And he joins his father as a national hero. He is still with us, so he's one of two living national heroes, along with Sir Isaac Alexander Vivian Richards to his left. Sir Viv, as we call him, is a world-renowned cricketer, and Vivian Richards, from me, just really embodies that Antigua spirit of defiance. Vivian Richards led the West Indies cricket team at a time in sports when they were really dominant. For many years, West Indies dominated international cricket, and Sir Viv was very known for not wearing a helmet when he would bat. He was a really good batsman, and he defiantly would not wear a helmet, a sort of a way to show that he was unafraid. Also, Vivian Richards was someone who did what he thought was right, and he led with his convictions. And there's a great story about how he refused to play cricket in apartheid South Africa because he did not want to support a regime that would have such gross violations of human rights. And for that, he is highly respected, a national treasure, Sir Vivian Richards. All right, we're gonna continue our journey now to a slide that I'm very excited to talk about. You can hear it in my voice. It's about local cuisine and food. Antiguans and Barbudans love food. That's definitely the way to our heart. So I just wanted to share that with you so you know how to win us over. No, what was really important is that if you understand how a people eat, you're understanding their history. Because our national dish is fungi and pepper pot. You see that to the bottom right. And fungi and pepper pot is a dish about resourcefulness, it's about survival. Because at the time when this would have been invented, the local people were not in a position to be wasteful. They had to eat what was available. They couldn't throw away a lot of food. And so what pepper pot is a sort of stew that incorporates basically whatever the people could have found at the time, different vegetables, different meats, and it's all stewed and brought together, and the people were able to find a way to keep themselves nourished during very difficult times. And today, of course, it is it's a food that we enjoy eating. It's something that is a delicacy. But when you look at the history of the food, it really helps you to understand just how ingenious people were at the time. Now, also, a lot of our food has the different influences that have come to the Caribbean. So whether it be the British, you can see ginger beer there in the images. Also, we have food that would have come from our African heritage. For example, dukana, that came from Africa directly. And of course, because we're a tropical island, we get an abundance of tropical fruit, such as the Antigua black pineapple. Now, the Antigua black pineapple is the sweetest pineapple in the world, and that's not just an exaggeration. If you have clients, if you are in Antigua and Barbuda, you definitely want to try this. Now, of course, it's seasonal, so it will depend on the time of the year when you are there, but you definitely want to get a slice of the Antigua black pineapple. You will not be disappointed. Now, a lot of this local food is available at roadside vendors, and I just want you to know that Antigua is a safe destination. You can feel free to purchase from these vendors. They all must hold a food handler certificate, and you will not be disappointed. We encourage you to eat where the locals eat because that's how you're going to really get an authentic sense of Antigua and Barbuda. Now, something that is special about Antigua and something that you will definitely notice when you step off of that plane at VC Bird International is just how bright and colorful the island is. And that's sort of a metaphor for the people because the people are very bright and colorful and vibrant as well. But everything from the flora and to the way people paint their homes and to the school children's uniforms, Antigua just has this vibe, this energy that's really infectious. And if you're coming from a concrete jungle or a place that's experienced in winter, it's going to be such a contrast. It's going to be so worthwhile. So your clients definitely want to see Antigua and Barbuda in the state that it is, because it's just really such a beautiful island. And one place where you can really see those colors and the vibrancy are festivals. Antiguans love to have a good time. So there's always a party or a fete, as we say, that's happening. Of course, Carnival is our big event for the year, and that happens, as I mentioned earlier, that happens around August 1st, or the first Monday, Tuesday in August usually. And there's so many celebrations. So of course you're all familiar with the parades where you see the colors and the feathers and the beads, but also there are lots of local competitions that happen. So there's a steel pan competition, and in Antigua, steel pan is really a part of our culture. Children learn to play the steel pan from very young, and then once they have those skills and they come up in the different steel pan associations, then they all compete for the pride of being the best steel band in the nation. There's also a kite festival. This is taking place at Devil's Bridge on the eastern side of the island, where it's very windy and it's great conditions for flying a kite. And that happens during Easter, the Easter celebrations. No, I just spoke about food and I told you how much we love food, so I had to throw that image to the bottom left in. That is an image from our Independence Food Fair. So as I mentioned, November 1st is Independence Day in Antigua and Barbuda, and around that time there's so many festivities. We have parades, we award citizens who have made great contributions, and we have this food fair where you can taste every variety, every variation of local food imaginable. So if you or your clients are in Antigua during early November, please, please, please make sure you check out the food fair. Again, you're not gonna be disappointed. Now, no trip to Antigua is complete without Barbuda. Barbuda is beautiful. Barbuda is our sister island, and Barbuda is markedly slower in pace than Antigua, and that's a great thing. There's actually a great story about Princess Diana in the late 80s and 90s. We all know she had trouble with the paparazzi and the press in the UK. And so she would come to Barbuda to just really unwind and relax, because there's definitely no paparazzi there. So there's a beach in Barbuda that's called the Diana Beach, named after her because she spent so much time there with the young princes at the time. And there's actually a family in Barbuda that still have pictures with Princess Diana and the young princes, and they have that in their home. So just a really nice place. If you have any bird lovers, nature lovers as clients, Barbuda has one of the largest frigate bird sanctuaries in the Western Hemisphere. You can see a photo of the frigate bird there with the bright red breast. Those are actually the males, and they puff up their chest as part of the mating rituals. So Barbuda also has a lot of other wildlife, such as wild pigs and fallow deer. And yeah, if you have clients that just really want to unplug, maybe they're busy executives in high stress jobs, I can't think of a more perfect place to just reconnect with nature, reconnect with yourself than Barbuda. It's really, and we wanted to touch a bit on religion in Antigua and Barbuda. Of course, it's a predominantly Christian society. A lot of the population are very church-going people, and their churches dotting all over the island. Traditionally, it was Anglican, Methodist, Moravian, but today there are other denominations such as Adventist, Jehovah's Witness, Catholic, Pentecostal, and they've all exist and grown in Antigua and Barbuda. And on a Sunday, you can find most people headed off to church, and then afterwards, they'll go to the beach with their family for a dip, perhaps a little bit of a barbecue. And that's just a part of life in Antigua, very laid back. People are very relaxed and chill and just have a good time and enjoy life. And what we hope to do in this webinar was really to give you a sense of the authentic and Antigua and Barbuda. so that you can share this information with your clients about what distinguishes the island from other destinations, because we want you to be able to credibly speak about the destinations that you sell. And is to get registered, if you have not already done so, with our travel agent university. So we see the website there, Antigua and Barbuda.ta.com. We have 6 video modules in both English and French, where you can get information up to date about Antigua and Barbuda. It's also the place to log your bookings. So if you are making bookings for people to come to Antigua and Barbuda, we want to ensure that as soon as possible you log those, because we usually do incentives and rewards monthly or on a quarterly basis, and we get our information from the website to be able to contact you. So it's very important as well that if you change agencies or you update your contact information, your phone number, your email address, that you put that information into the system, because when it's time to invite people on FAMs, we need a way to contact you and we don't want you to miss out on that. Now, I know some people have been asking just to clarify how to log bookings, so we wanted to show you in the images there. You can see in the upper right hand corner of the website, student login. You click on that, you put in your credentials, and you are into the system. When you click on that downward arrow, you will see a drop down list, and the second to last item there is log my booking. So that's where you go. You put in some quick information about the date when you made the booking, and also the date when your clients are traveling, where they're going, and if you used any tour operator, just some quick information, and you submit that so that we're able to keep track of all of the people that you're sending down to come to Antigua. And of course, the Travel Agent University is just a great resource with lots of materials, our annual events calendar, tours and attractions, destination videos, all great stuff that you can share with your clients. So definitely, if you're not registered, go and get registered. If you haven't updated your information recently, please go and do that. All right, and that brings us to the end of our webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely did enjoy talking about Antigua and Barbuda. I love to do it. I love to share our island and our people and our culture with everyone. And we just want to make sure that you have all the support you need as you continue to sell Antigua and Barbuda. So we have our website, our social media handles there, of course our training website antiguabarbuda.ta.com, and our physical address and phone number. So if you have any needs, any information that you need, feel free to contact us. If you have clients that are in Antigua and you need some help, some support, feel free to contact us. We would be happy to lend a hand. Thank you so much. Please stay tuned because we're going to have more webinars up on the Spoil Agent platform. We want to make sure that you have the best and most up-to-date information about Antigua and Barbuda. So again, thank you and stay tuned. All right, signing off. Kyle Christian here once again from Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority. See you soon.